YouTube. This morning I got back from the post office where I found a delightful surprise waiting for me from the University of Columbia. A big old box of books. Yay. One of which is the second edition of Stephen Eric Bronner's classic, Socialism Unbound, Principles, Practices, and Prospects. So yes, YouTube, I confess, I am a socialist. I have been a socialist for about half my adult life. If you have a problem with that, I'm not sorry. I refuse in this country to apologize for my personal political ideology. But if you believe that it is somehow an American, I suggest that you really look into it a lot more carefully, because I hate to tell you this, but it's as American as apple pie. Until the great crash of the 20s, the U.S. had a thriving socialist party, and it was because FDR got Social Security and all these wonderful benefits for the citizens of the U.S. that the wealthy decided to fight back. And I identify socialists with communists and to just destroy both parties. And in fact, these parties really haven't recovered to this day. It would probably shock a great many of you to realize that every country on Earth has a socialist party. In fact, that's what led to the Vietnam War. We didn't like their political ideology, so we decided to make war with them to try and destroy it, because it wasn't corporate friendly. In fact, the U.S. actually forced Japan to trade with them at the barrel of an armada. We showed up, we knocked on their borders one day, said, "You will trade with us, whether or not you like." 1 year to the day, we showed up again with an armada, and they signed the papers then and there, because they knew that we would just utterly vanquish them, that there would be absolutely no one left. I mean, the North Koreans have a right to be saber-rattle against us, to try and scare us, because during the Korean War, we decimated 1/4 of their entire population. Let that sink in for a minute. 1/4 of their entire population gone. Generations of people just gone. So it's not without cause that they are aggressive towards us. They have a right, but I'm digressing a bit. Before I get on to the meat of this video, I wanted to just say that just read this book if you really want to know what socialism is really about, because more likely than not, you simply don't know. This is a really great resource. It doesn't feed you the propaganda that Americans typically get fed when they go looking towards what socialism is and is not. So I thoroughly recommend this book. But it was what else was in that box that inspired me to make this video. Nature's Pharmacopoeia, a world of medicinal plants by Dan Chopness. I'm assuming that's how his last name is pronounced. It's a lot more scientific, a lot more ethnobotanical, which is fine. I cut my teeth on ethnobotany many years ago. In fact, it's more science-driven. The first part of the book is really about herbs and plants that are more stimulative. Like coffee and tea and cocaine and things of that nature. Cannabis as well, peyote, poppy, really the entheogens. Whereas the latter half of the book, maybe more like the latter third of the book, is really about a select group of herbs that are traditionally used medicinally, such as valerian and St. John's wort, things of that nature. It's by no means complete, but it's still a damn good reference to turn to. Now, if I were stranded on a desert island, or if I were moving somewhere and I could only take a select few books with me dealing with the subject of medicinal herbalism, the books that follow will be the books that I would absolutely take with me in a heartbeat. This book, just because I'm just a sucker for awesome book design. I mean, this book is, it's so well put together. Got a great cover. The illustrations are on point. It's just a good general study. The only drawback to this book is it doesn't really break down each type of medicine that you can make and really give a good breakdown of that process, as many books on herbal medicine today do. Instead, it chose to give that information in theory and in recipe form, so that you could really get your hands dirty so that you can learn by doing with a few recipes in the book. And they're good recipes. I would have liked to have seen something more exhaustive. I adore these two books. Actually, I adore this one more than this one, but they're both really, really awesome. It's Tyler's Herbs of Choice and The Honest Herbal by Barry E. Tyler. They are great books filled with studies and citations of herbal medicine, as is this one, The Way of Herbs, which was written by, Michael Tierra. I guess I was thinking this was another book I owned, which was written by two pharmacists. I'll end up posting the title of that book below. But yeah, I would totally take this one with me as well. Michael is an awesome guy. His books are awesome. But one of the big books I would definitely take with me, even though it's not exhaustive in terms of many of the herbs used by we herbalists, but it's still a fabulous resource, and that is The Scientific Validation of Herbal Medicine. It's really broken down, not by herb, but by the indication or the condition that the herb treats or absorbs, such as if a herb is a laxative, if you're dealing with influenza or insomnia, infertility, fevers and infection, environmental pollution, things like that. This is another brilliant book. I think this is a German book that was translated into English. God, European hardbacks are so awesome. They're just so tightly, beautifully bound. But this is Rational Phytotherapy, A Physician's Guide to Herbal Medicine. This is the 4th edition by Schultz, Hansel, and Tyler. I believe it is the same Tyler as Varro Tyler. And this book is set up not by the condition that the herb treats, but by the part of the body that the herb affects. So for that reason, it is phenomenal. It is in color. It is academic in the sense that it's based on, it's in full color. It's based on the latest studies that the herbs were put through to determine whether or not They affect the body in the way that we herbalists have been saying for a very long time. Then there is this recent book by North Atlantic Books. It's The Modern Herbal Dispensatory, a medicine making guide, and it is one of the few books, actually one of the only books that's in print now that I know of that contains a whole section on developing formularies. And for that, it is totally laudable. In fact, Llewellyn Publications is publishing this year a book specifically on that topic. So I really can't wait to get a hold of that copy when it's available so that I can review it and tell you all about it, because I'm really, really super excited about it. But I love the photography in this book. It is also in full color. About half of the book, about this much of the book, which is about half, is a herbal in and of itself, whereas the rest of the book tells you how to apply herbs, how to turn them into herbal medicine, and how to create your own herbal formula. This is another book that I am so glad to add to my library, and it's the Complete Herb Source Book by David Hoffman. Destined to be, in my opinion, another classic. But as I've said before in another video, the one drawback of this book are these sage-colored boxes, because the text is white. And when you're reading the book in low light, it's really hard to read what's in those text boxes. So that is really my only complaint about this book. It's a fabulous book, phenomenal. There's a whole section on the urinary tract system, herbs and sexuality, menopause, the glandular system, acne, the skin. A fabulous study worth every penny to add to your personal library so that you have a better understanding of the body and how herbs affect it. This is another really awesome, and again, full color book on herbal recipes and remedies. Actually, just check out that photo. I love that photo. And it is The Complete Medicinal Herbal by Penelope Odie. I believe she is a British herbalist. It contains more than 250 remedies for common ailments, and lots of full color monographs on herbs. So definitely a fabulous book. This one, however, is one that every herbalist worth his or her salt should own. It's been a while since I've read this book. James Green's The Herbal Medicine Maker's Handbook. It is absolutely essential to the study of and the practice of medicinal herbalism. If you've never read it, it's in many ways considered to be the textbook on making herbal medicine. It breaks it down to almost a level of being a science. You almost feel like an alchemist reading it. It's a fabulous book, and if you don't own it, beg, borrow, and steal for it, because you are missing out on something extraordinary. These next few books are books that I have had for many, many years. In fact, they are some of the first books that I owned on the subject of herbal medicine, and they would be going with me if I were to move, and I couldn't take all my books with me at one time, basically for nostalgic purposes, but also because of the information they contain, which you can't really find in many other books. And the first book is Michael Tierra's The Way of Herbs. Wait a minute. This is what happens when you own way too many books and have read way too many books. So, I might just be giving this one away. It's moments like this that you have to laugh at yourself. The other book is the Rodale Herb book. It's one of my favorites. I bought an inexpensive copy of this, hardback also, at the Planned Parenthood book sale one year just to get to give away to a friend. And she uses it just as often as I use this one. It just has this wonderful nostalgic feel, as though you're reading something your grandparents would have read, or something your great aunt or uncle would have read. I mean, look at these photos. I adore these photos, and it tells you how to make herbal syrups, herbal vinegars, creams and ointments. I believe there's even a chapter on herbal dyes, even as well as growing herbs and planting a garden. And this book, I actually like this book because it tells you how to create herbal suppositories, which honestly, no book that I have listed talks about herbal suppositories, which is something that every herbalist should know about. It's something that a lot of people will have to deal with at some point. So it's definitely worth publishing in a book. More books than what are traditionally available. This book also tells you how to make your own apple cider vinegar from scratch. Really, really easy. The only problem is the instructions to that formula are a little. They leave you with a few questions now and then. But the herbs are wonderful. There's herbs for arthritis, herbs for astringents. Really like other books, the herbs are listed by what they affect. So that is another phenomenal book, and I think that is, well, with the exception of this one, that would be 13 books with me that if I were stranded on the desert island or if I were moving and I could only take a certain amount of books with me, those would be it. As well as that book I told you about that I think is actually downstairs. That was written by two pharmacists. So that would be 14 books. And if I can get a copy of that book by Llewellyn that isn't published yet, that would be a total of 15 books that I would personally regard as almost essential to the study of medicinal herbalism. And if you haven't read them, get a copy of them, beg, borrow, or steal if you can. I don't really recommend stealing, but begging and borrowing and trying to scrape together money for your own personal library. So these are really the books that I recommend most highly to those studying herbal medicine seriously. I've had so many tongue twisters today. So until next time, my witches, keep calm and witch on. The larger sketchbooks, because it's a rather it's only like 200 pages long, 220 pages, and I was hoping for one that is at least 2 times as big, because when you've been practicing for as long as I have,